All right, my friends, welcome back to All Cars. I am John, and today we have another reaction video to a MotorWeek retro review. This week it is the 1998 Isuzu Rodeo, or Rodeo if you're feeling fancy. I am looking forward to this one. This one just dropped, I think, a day ago, something like that. So I'm pretty excited about this because I always liked the Rodeo, but I was conflicted about it. So I think I've done a reaction video to just one other Isuzu. That was the Trooper 2. Deeply respect that vehicle for its off-road ability. And same thing with the Rodeo, actually. Isuzu was a maker that I really respect their engines. Not the most powerful, but really reliable engines, and transmissions were okay. But overall, Isuzu's had a sense of crudeness about them. Cheaper interiors and a harsher ride and just a little cruder sounds from the engine. They were never the most refined vehicles out there. Specifically, I had back in the day, and this was probably late 80s, something like that, I had a friend that bought an Isuzu truck. It was beautiful. It was black and it was jacked up and had these big tires on it, four-wheel drive. It was awesome. And I remember exterior wise thinking this was really good looking, but when you got in the interior, you know, the dash is somewhat stylish. It was better than S10, for example, but it was cheap. And I'll never forget that some edge of the plastic, I think it was near where the headlight lamp was, something like that, it had little bits of plastic, like they'd broken it out of a mold and nobody'd filed it down. It was just super cheap. And that's kind of my opinion of Isuzus, their cars and their trucks and everything else. They were always more substantial than Suzuki, but not as well built. I don't know. That's kind of it. So I'm super interested to look at this and hear this. I think this is the version that Honda actually rebadged and used as, it was a Honda. It was a Passport, wasn't it? I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. But anyway, good vehicle. My overwhelming opinion before we get into it is good engine, noisy, cheap interior, bad ride. Let's see what they say.
Is made possible by Lucas Oil, TireRack.com, and RockAuto.com.
Soon after its introduction in 1990, the American-made Isuzu Rodeo soon galloped to the head of the import brand SUV segment. Once there, it remained firmly entrenched by offering excellent on- and off-road capabilities and a high degree of practicality. But the SUV market has changed considerably since then. And with the explosion of makes and models now available, the SUV buyer can afford to be more selective. Well, this new, completely reworked Isuzu Rodeo certainly deserves our close scrutiny. But does it have what it takes to remain at the front of an increasingly competitive herd?
All right, so styling, I like this. Man, I like this a lot. I like that it's just a little chunky. You know what I mean? I mean, it doesn't look, the proportions are really good. I like the headlights, I like the grille, I like the monochromatic bumper, but it's all just a little chunky. And I just think it looks good. One thing I didn't say in the intro there is, as much as I kind of like the Isuzu, I always found myself as a Jeep fan saying, why would I buy this instead of a Jeep? Why would I buy this over a Cherokee? I still feel that way. As much as I kind of like this at the beginning here, I think I'd still have my Jeep. Let's look.
It certainly looks as if Isuzu has taken the necessary steps to keep it there, as the 1998 Rodeo has undergone a massive makeover that touches almost every part of the truck, and stylistically positions it to take on all comers well into the next millennium. A track that's been widened 2.4 inches gives the Rodeo an aggressive, muscular stance that's fronted by a new bolder egg crate grille and larger air dam. Then subtle fender blisters and corrugated lower body cladding give the Rodeo a more upscale appearance, but the dull paint finish on the matching body-colored bumpers doesn't. Cabin flow-through air vents, however, have been neatly integrated into the taillights, And the spare tire now mounts directly to the rear gate, or underneath the truck if you prefer, as the rear axle has been moved forward 2.4 inches to accommodate it, without encroaching on cargo capacity, which is easier to access from curbside now that the rear gate swings left rather than down. And when opened, reveals 33 cubic feet of storage space with the rear seat backs in their upright position, 81.1 cubic feet when they're folded for an...
I'd like to say I like everything they just said. They widened the track, they moved the rear axle forward. Sounds like they shortened the wheelbase, but whatever. I like the hatch design. I like that you can open the window separately and swing this open to the left. That helps if you're picking something up from a curb, for example. But there's enough space behind the rear seats here to put a big a big bag long ways. That's really nice. You see, I don't know, I just get the impression now with SUVs, unless you start to get to some of the really big ones, it's just a little tight back there. From the rear here, this looks like it's just got good space and some pretty good thinking.
An overall increase of 6.2 cubic feet. Just ahead, the slightly elevated rear seat offers better forward visibility for its occupants and ample room across for 3 adults, while the 60-40 split seat back features a 3-position recline for greater passenger comfort. There's more comfort for front seat dwellers as well, due to a slight increase in leg, shoulder, and headroom, and operator controls that have been completely revamped for a cleaner appearance and easier use. The manually adjusted leather-faced buckets in our LS model were overly firm, but side bolsters and the seat bottoms and backs provided the right amount of position-holding support, while facing a tasteful, functional, and much more car-like instrument panel that houses the clearly marked analog gauges. The climate controls are now smoothly operated rotary dials, and the AM/FM cassette premium audio system has been moved higher on the dash. A space-saving 6-disc in-dash CD changer is also available.
I'll be honest with you, I only have one real complaint here. I can nitpick a few different things, but that gauge cluster is super clear. Not a lot of instrumentation there, but super clear. Sure, I think for the HVAC, maybe 3 knobs instead of big chunky sliders, but I'm sure it works fine, and they moved it nice and high. Radio, it's okay. Looks like an aftermarket unit stuck in there, but it's okay. It seems to all be really well designed. I'm pretty impressed. The leather looks cheap to me. That looks like vinyl. And it's really monochromatic. I mean, it's the same color on the doors, the dash, the carpet, and the seats. Gosh, Isuzu, would it have hurt you to do a couple of different colors? But that's a really minor complaint. At least they're not doing orange or bright red or the blue and the horrible blue interiors we used to have. It's a boring interior, but it looks really well thought out. Not exciting, not luxurious, but nothing jumps out at me as being, oh my gosh, what were they thinking? Kind of impressed.
A 5-speed manual transmission is standard, but the optional 4-speed automatic with its power and winter driving modes has been substantially upgraded for improved shift patterns and overall reliability. The rugged part-time 4-wheel drive system is now engaged on the fly with the touch of a button, while low range is engaged the old-fashioned way. And puts to good use the new 3.2-liter 24-valve double overhead cam V6 that grinds out 205 horsepower and 214 pound-feet of torque, and offers coil-on-plug technology that now includes a built-in transistor at each plug and eliminates the need for a conventional ignition control module, as well as a much improved flatter torque curve. Base models get an equally new 2.2-liter 16-valve twin-cam inline 4. But it was the V6's ample torque and an overall vehicle weight reduction of 285 pounds that allowed us an impressive 0 to 60 dash of just 8.7 seconds.
Okay. There's a lot to unpack there. So, good power. I've got to remember this is 98, not 88. So, that's pretty good power. And the torque's pretty good, 214. I do not know off the top of my head what, for example, a Cherokee's 6-cylinder does. But it strikes me as fair. They said a flatter torque curve. That's good. But for all of the changes they made, they reduced the weight of this. They made it wider, longer, and reduced the weight. That's pretty impressive. 8.7 seconds. You're not going to beat a Mustang, but we've seen so many videos here where, you know, something will go 0 to 60 in 10 seconds, and they're like, that's pretty competitive. This is really pretty strong. I'll say this, much stronger than I expected. I did not expect this to, even though they're not gushing over it, I expected a lot more criticism. And this is coming across very positive.
Compared to our 93 test, the new Rodeo is over a second faster. Handling was the one Rodeo disappointment. The 3,925-pound Rodeo feels lighter and more agile, and in easy corners, the new rack and pinion steering is more responsive. But in a rapid slalom, the double wishbone front and compact 5-link rear suspension are hampered by very soft springs that allow too much body lean for our taste. Understeer was so pronounced that we kept checking tires for underinflation. Now, we want to stress that the vehicle never felt unstable or unsafe. In fact, the body sway and understeer will cause most drivers to back off and drive more conservatively. In braking, the Rodeo...
I wish they hadn't done that whole piece right there. I get that they're doing the same test for every single person, but this is not, say a BMW X5. This is not meant to be the sporty end of the sport utilities. So I kind of think that them harping on body roll, slow speed, the tires felt underinflated, was really unnecessary to that level, because it just brought them to the point where they had to make that disclaimer that it never felt tippy. That whole thing just kind of rubs me wrong a little bit, guys. This is not a sports car. It's not meant to be. And, if they did an emergency change, like, kid runs out in front, you're dodging the ball, that's different. But a slalom, I don't think that's quite fair. Let's see how it did on brakes.
Rodeo's ABS four-wheel disc system worked well with no fade and a reasonable 136-foot stopping average from 60. But again, the soft springs allowed a squirrely feeling as the Rodeo jiggled to a halt. On the other hand, those same softer underpinnings, along with improved soundproofing, pay off with an extremely smooth and quiet highway ride. And a soft ride is likely to appeal most to the kind of buyers capable of paying the $31,480 price tag of our test Rodeo LS 4x4. Base price for the LS 4x4 model is $27,910. The standard trim 4x4 is priced at $23,240. Standard two-wheel drives can be had for $17,995. And that, plus image, may be the reason that 50% of all Rodeos sold are 4x2s. Yet by maintaining and strengthening its rugged body-on-frame construction, the Rodeo is still plenty savvy when the going gets rough, while its gone-soft highway manners and attractive styling offer a dose of luxury that was lacking in its predecessor. With the new Isuzu Rodeo, one can have it both ways.
Interesting. So, what do I think? I think that I'm frustrated with MotorWeek for not being consistent. Some of these retro reviews, they introduce it, and then at the end they have two competitors. This one is another one, they don't do it, and I wish they had. That top of the line price kind of shocked me. Over $30,000 20 some odd years ago for an Isuzu. Really shocking. But, for somebody just sitting here who's not going to go jump on Wikipedia and go look up an answer, how does that compare to the Jeep Cherokee, to the Nissan Pathfinder, to a Toyota? No, we don't know. It strikes me as a little high, but we don't really know. The other thing is that the whole time I'm watching this, and it's some stylistic things around it, I keep finding myself thinking, why wouldn't I buy a Pathfinder? I just couldn't shake it. I like this. This was much more positive than I expected it to be, and much more positive than I remember. The interior was somewhat better looking, if basic, sure, really softly sprung, but everything about it seemed like a vehicle that I would happily just live with. But there were some moments where they're showing the front or something, and all of a sudden I'm like, that little Pathfinder. I kept thinking of the Pathfinder. And of course, this looks like it's got more space, is bigger than the Cherokee. Might be more refined than the Cherokee too. I think the dashboard was better in this, but I keep thinking to myself, why would I have this over a Cherokee? Maybe that's what Isuzu ran into. They sold a lot of them. This was a really popular vehicle back then. I know that I liked them, and I had a friend that wanted one. But ultimately, it falls into this, why would you buy this over other things? I'd really like to see a comparison test. You know what? Bring the Rodeo, bring the Pathfinder, bring the Cherokee, bring the 4Runner. Let's have a shootout. That's what I'd like to see, and where this actually stacked up against its competition at the time. Much more positive than I expected, but the fact is that while these were relatively popular, and you saw them around, like the Amigo, you saw some of those, when was the last time you saw a Rodeo on the road? You know, for all of my opinion about Isuzu actually built a pretty good car and the engines were pretty reliable, you just never see them anymore. Whereas the Cherokee has gone on to be a cult icon and is highly demanded. You know, the 4Runner continues to be, well, popular and in demand, and then the Pathfinder became a shopping cart, and it looks better now. So, I don't know. You know what, guys? If you had one, you loved it, you hated it, you have fond memories of it, share your memories below. Overall, more positive than I remembered, but really would like some more information on where it stacked up against its competition at the time. Thanks for being here, guys.